So I'm going to go ahead and right click on templates, new directory, and call it email. Now right click on email, new HTML file, and call it confirmation email. Okay, since we're sending out an email, we can't really use Bootstrap. Okay, why not? Well, in order to use Bootstrap, we need to call the different CSS files and the JavaScript files and load them up, which the browser does for us. But email is different. The email clients won't do this for various reasons, but one of which are security reasons. So instead, we need to embed the styles into the email. Okay, so let's start writing out our email template, and we'll see how to embed the styles in the email itself. So first of all, I want to say that the entire message has its text aligned to the center. So I'll say style, text align is center. Okay, that's one thing. And then I want to say that the entire email's font family or font style will be Arial, sans serif. Okay. Now I want to add a header, so I'll type a h1, and in this header we'll say, please confirm your Yum search account. Okay, and I'll give this header a style as well. I'll just say that the font size is going to be 20 pixels, and then I need to add the link which the user needs to click in order to activate their account. So this will be a tag with a href, and this href will contain our domain name. And I'm going to show you guys one very handy trick when you're testing locally versus when you're actually in production. So when we're testing locally, this domain needs to point to our local server. Whereas if the application is in production, we need to make it point to our domain name. So we need to have both of these cases contemplated. So for the time being, let's just type in the variable domain, which we are not yet passing to the template. See here we haven't declared a domain, but we will. Okay, so let's pass in a domain name, and this domain name will be dynamic according to whether or not we are in production or we are in local development testing or development environment. Okay, so this will be our domain name /account / and then we can pass in our user ID. So this will be user ID, which we are already passing into the template. Then let's add another / and let's say confirm / and then again we can pass in the confirmation ID or confirmation code, sorry. And we can close this a tag, and the text can be, please click here to confirm your account. Okay, looks great. Let's just leave it like this and see if this works. Now before we go ahead and test it, we need to pass in the domain name. So domain will be, and if we're in local, testing in local, then this will be our domain name, right? Localhost port 8080. Whereas if we are in production, our domain name will be something else. So let's say http localhost port 8080 if, and now how do we test whether our application is in local development or are we in production? So to test whether we are in production or in development, we can import another library, and we're going to do from OS import environ, okay, for environment. So now we can test whether the environment of the server software, if it starts with development, then we can say that we are in development and we can pass in the localhost 8080. Else, let's just pass in our domain name. So for the time being, let's just add, let's say the yumsearch2.appspot.com, which will be the domain name for our, when we deploy our application to production. Now, in much further lectures, we will see how to actually change this for a actual domain name we can buy. So let's say yumsearch.com. okay, instead of having this, kind of ugly domain name or long domain name maybe. Okay, so again, what are we doing here? Basically, we're testing whether the os.environ, the server software starts with development. If this is the case, we know that we are in our development environment, so we can pass in the localhost 8080. Otherwise, we know that we are in production, so we can pass in our production URL, okay? So now the last thing we need to do is we need to actually send out this HTML. So we can say email object.html is equal to HTML from template. And finally, we can send the email, so email object.send, okay? So now we can go ahead and test this. However, there's one more thing we need to do before we actually test this. And this is we need to specify certain parameters when we launch our application on our local computer. We need to specify some certain configurations, okay? So let's go back to our terminal.